Hello, I hope you're doing well. In today's video, I will be reviewing LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Before we get to that, if you want to see more reviews, then feel free to like and subscribe. So I'm going to start this review off differently, and not talk about the story, just because this game is based off of all 9 Star Wars films, and this isn't a movie review, it's a video game review, so I'm just going to skip that. What I am going to start off with is how much fun this game is. This game is the most fun game I've played in quite a while. I actually kind of forget when I had this much fun with a video game. The levels were well designed, the story was great, the comedy was spot on, and everything just felt so polished. I'm going to get into some more of these aspects later, but for now I just want to mention how polished this game really is. Usually I wouldn't do this for a review, but just because the past year there have been so many botched game releases that I thought I would touch on this. I originally told myself I was not going to pre-order this game, just because every game has been released unfinished, or just doesn't work. A week before the game came out, I actually saw the full gameplay on YouTube. Not all of it, just a little, and just saw how polished this game really was. So I went ahead and pre-ordered, and got all the extra stuff, which is really exciting. There were a few minor glitches here and there, but out of the 25 hours I have played this game, I've only seen 2 or 3 glitches at the most. It was very noticeable, especially because every other game that I've played in the past year has had more than a handful of problems. I guess I can tell you about the few glitches that I ran into. So the only 2 game-breaking glitches are with the mumble mode. So what mumble mode is that when it's activated, it makes all the LEGO characters mumble instead of actually talk. And I had this on for the entire gameplay, for the original experience. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because there are 2 specific missions. I forgot what the first one is called, but the second one is in episode 8. What the problem is that Luke Skywalker, when he lifts up his X-Wing and places it on the land, he just stays idle for an infinite amount of time. And I tried many things to fix this, but there's only one way to fix this issue, and that's to turn mumble mode off. I think the reason why this happens is that a specific key phrase has to be said in order for you to advance in the mission. I feel like this is a pretty major issue, and thankfully it only happened once or twice, and the problem with this glitch as well is that after you turn mumble mode off, you have to actually restart the game. Another one-off glitch that I saw was also with mumble mode. Sometimes when the characters are speaking, you don't hear anything at all, and it can be very distracting. There are a few other things that I had issues with, but I'll get into that later. Now I will talk about the graphics. These are the best graphics I've ever seen in a LEGO game. All of the LEGO pieces look like real plastic, and it adds more of a realistic feel to the LEGO sets and levels, and makes you feel like you're really in a LEGO world. I also like the little details, like if you're on Tatooine or something, your character will get dusty and full of sand, which is really cool. The only thing that probably could have been more consistent graphics-wise is that when you're on Kamino or Rainy Planet, that you should see raindrops on your LEGO character. But that's not really a thing I'm bothered by. The graphics being so high-end, and I'm very surprised at how well it ran on my computer. One of the main selling points of this game are the different controls. The controls were changed dramatically from the original LEGO Star Wars game. What you can do now is you can actually aim down your sights and have a closer camera look to your character. I was personally worried that this would feel very sloppy and stiff, and that it would have been an extra thing just added in just to be another thing. But no, they put significant amounts of time into making this feel good and natural. I also noticed with the controls a good amount of accessibility. Yes, I'm going to bring up God of War again because this is the latest game I played, and they had quick time events, which were very dodgy and weird at times. For me, it's harder to tap buttons really quick. And in LEGO Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, they accommodate that very well. Instead of tapping the button, you can just press and hold. The only issue I have with this is that when you're doing the quick time events, it still tells you to tap quickly, so a lot of the time you're going to catch yourself still tapping really fast instead of holding. The camera can be a bit funky at points. If you're using the force to lift up a container or something, sometimes your camera will phase through a wall, and you can't see if your character is building or what you're doing, and that can be distracting. Something I really like about LEGO games is the amount of content that they usually have. And boy, does this game not disappoint in the content department. This is the most amount of content I've ever seen in a LEGO game. It is absolutely insane. So I'm not going to explain every single little thing that is in this game, but I'll give you a list of some of this stuff. You have over 300 playable characters, and you have an incredible amount of starfighters, starships, including the Death Star and the Death Star 2, which you can fully explore as well. There are even character bios when you select a character. Each character has their unique set of moves as well as voice lines. I'm going to move on now to the gameplay aspect, as I feel like a lot of the stuff I want to talk about is more geared towards the gameplay aspect. So as I mentioned in the content section, is that there is a lot to do. Some of the things you can do include space battles, which I was very surprised about. If you have ever played the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, then you will be very pleased with the space battles. After you fight in these little space battles, you will actually get to fight a command ship, which is amazing to me. When I did my playthrough, I thought one space battle, and what you have to do is take out their outer defenses. And I thought, boom, once you're done, you're done, but there's more to it. After you've destroyed the defenses, you can actually go inside the ship, and there will be a mini boss battle. You go through all their little corridors, fight off some droids, rebels, whatever, and then you'll fight their commander. Once you take out their commander, you will be given the option to buy the ship, and then explore even more. Beware though, they can be very expensive, so save up some of your studs. It really took me back to Star Wars Battlefront 2, when I would play all of these space battles just on my own, for hours and hours, and I'm so happy to see this included with this game. The levels were well built as well. I've been seeing some people complain about how short the levels are, and in my opinion, they're not short at all. I actually think they're longer than the original LEGO Star Wars game. What I also like about these levels is that they're not just the same looking levels from the original game. They're completely redone, and they have no resemblance to the original game. I touched on the controls a little bit back in the review, but I thought I would come back to it for a little more. The combat system has been completely redone in this game, especially the lightsaber battles. Now it feels like an actual lightsaber battle that you are in. The enemy AI is much better as well, where they can actually be very hard. The enemies have proper combos, and if you aren't careful enough, they can take you out pretty fast. They also have these lightsaber clashes that you've seen in the trailers, where they fight really fast, and I have to say it's pretty cool, and it really brings you into the fight. I don't want to spoil too much more about the gameplay, so I'm just going to move on to the replayability. I have noticed for every LEGO game, the replayability is always really good. The replayability in this game is just insane compared to the other LEGO games. You obviously have the main levels that you can play as many times as you want, and you can come back with different LEGO characters, so then you can unlock all the mini kits and the extra fun little things. Outside of the levels, you can visit so many planets, it's insane. Every single planet that you have seen in the Star Wars movies are completely available to explore, and I just absolutely love that, especially as a Star Wars fan. Some of the levels can even be played 2 or 3 different ways. For instance, in the first level of A New Hope, you either have the option to destroy a door and suck all the troopers out of the air vent into space, or you have the option to go the other way and just shoot them all. I love that kind of incentive to replay a game. With all of the good stuff out of the way, I thought that I would mention a few things that irked me a little. So I mentioned a few glitches before, but I thought I would talk about more of the ones that bothered me the most. There are only two significant things that bothered me in this game, and that is the fact that sometimes the game would crash, and some of the levels the frame rate was horrible. There's only one instance where the game crashed, and that was in the beginning of the game. I feel like I need to mention that there was a patch released, and this crash happened after I installed the patch. I'm not sure if this has anything to do with that, but it's worth mentioning. In the beginning of the game, usually when you start the game, a bunch of logos will show up and you have the option to skip these logos. I skipped about 2 or 3 of those logos, and then the game absolutely just broke and crashed. It might have been just a one-off, but it was something that kind of annoyed me. Before I talk about the frame rate issues, I wanted to tell you that this was the game having an issue, not the computer, and I am sure of that. There are about 3 different levels that had really bad frame rate issues. The first time I noticed the frame rate issues was on Geonosis, where you're in the droid factory, and this was the first time I noticed significant drops in frame rates. The frame rate was like at 10 to 15 FPS, when the game would regularly run at 60 FPS. If you watch my playthrough, you will see the severe frame drops, and it was very hard to play that level. None of the other levels that had the frame drops were as bad as this one. The next level that had frame rate issues was the battle on Mustafar, when Obi-Wan and Anakin were fighting. I don't really have much to say on this, but again, it's just a warning. The third mission that I noticed a frame rate drop was in the last mission of episode 9. When you're on the side of the Star Destroyer, the frame rates are really bad. Not as bad as Geonosis, but they're still pretty bad. I really hope that the developers release a patch to fix these frame rate issues, because if it was my graphics card that was the issue, then every level would have been this bad. Another reason why I think it was not my computer was the fact that on Geonosis, when I changed the graphics setting to the lowest it can be in the game was still dropping frames significantly. I don't know how these levels are on console, but if you're a PC player, just be aware and don't worry, it's not your computer, it's the game. Okay, so what do I think of LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga? Well, I think it's amazing. Everything about this game was just so well done. And all the gimmicky stuff that usually comes with games are not in this game. What I mean by that is that there are no microtransactions that either become pay to win or are too pricey. The game is not online only either, which is really great. The most important thing of all, I think, about this game was that it was released completed. It's pretty sad that I have to mention that I'm happy a game was released completed. The trend of games being released and then fixed after the release needs to end. I'm hopeful that video games are starting to be released completed again, because now we've had Elden Ring and this game released perfectly. If you're interested in this game and you love Star Wars, and even if you don't know much about Star Wars, you will really like this game. So, the next game I'm going to review is Max Payne, which I'm very excited for. I haven't played that game in years, so it'll be interesting to play it again. Also, check out my playthrough of LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. I have it in 2 parts, because the game is just over 12 hours, which is a shame, but hey, what can you do? Thank you all so much for watching, and see you in the next review.